Hello, everybody. Welcome to MinnMax's second episode of its deepest dive of The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, the deepest, most thorough discussion about The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom on the internet. I am Kyle Hilliard, stepping in for Ben Hansen, who ended up being quite busy recently. There's a new video, I think, that's live on the site now that he's been hard at work on, which is why Mr. Zelda, they call me around these parts, I'm stepping in to host the second episode. That video is Panic Playdate Infinite Independence MinnMax Spotlight. Go check out that video. Kelsey, you're a big part of that video as well.
I am. Yeah. And I did none of the editing, so I was not
nice
all that busy.
That's the best way to do it, I've learned. Kelsey is here for the second episode. How's it going, Kelsey?
That's me. I'm good. I just finished this game last night, so
congrats.
Ready to talk about it. It's fresh.
Jeff Markufava is here.
That's me. I finished it like 2 weeks ago, so it's less fresh, but I'm ready. I took plenty of notes to remind myself of everything.
Wow. Okay. And Haley is here. What's up, Haley?
I finished today, so fresh and ready.
Jeff, how'd you finish it so quickly? Are you just enjoying it so much? You just ripped through it?
Yeah, I just kept playing after it might not have been 2 weeks ago, it might have been a week ago. But I just kept plugging away at it after the last episode, once we were allowed to play more, and wanted to make sure I got things done, and probably should have saved a chunk to play, like last night, but
right. Well, you messed up,
but I'm ready regardless. Yeah.
Let's do a couple plugs here right at the beginning. Of course, you can unlock a podcast version of this deepest dive as well as all of our other video content by supporting the MinnMax Patreon tier at $5. You get access to a feed that lets you listen to these kind of discussions instead of having to watch them. So you're
like
welcome.
Animals.
That's right. And for this week only, we'll DM you a Steam code for the new tactics RPG-ish game Arco. If you support MinnMax at any tier, or if you upgrade to the $10 Backstage Pass tier, if you're already a Patreon subscriber and you want to bump it up, we'll throw a code your way. Arco has got really good reviews on Steam. We're calling it. I guess a lot of people. I'm not saying like we didn't proclaim this, but it's already kind of one of 2024's like hidden gems. And if you support us, you get a chance to check out that game, which is great. And you have until this Friday, October 18th. To take advantage of that. So yeah, jump into the Patreon. It's fun. We do cool stuff. And you get the podcast version. It's all great. Much like The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which I think is a great game. I wasn't in the first episode, so I can now share my opinion, which is, hey, this game that is generally well liked, I'm also in that camp that I think it is a good game.
And that's coming from the Mr. Zelda.
That's right.
We missed you in the first episode
like
for sure.
Is that like a Mario situation? Is Zelda also Zelda?
Well, famously at Game Informer, we asked Shigeru Miyamoto and Eiji Onuma what Link's last name is, and I believe he said it's Mario.
That can't be true.
Perfect.
No, yeah, it's in the Breath of the Wild rapid fire questions. We asked Miyamoto what his
Excellent.
last name is.
Oh, what a good sport!
It's now canon. Yeah.
That's right. Let's before we dive too deep into this deepest dive, let's do our favorite introductory thing, most common comment. What was the most common comment for the second episode of The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom? I will say, maybe this is a hint for you guys to figure it out. There weren't a lot, like the most common comment kind of ended up being like only like 2 or 3 people commented on it. Like there was a lot of, everyone had a lot of unique thoughts about Echoes of Wisdom, which is cool and interesting, and also I think speaks to the game that it's a game that you can really approach in a lot of different ways. But Haley, what do you think the most common comment was for the second episode of Echoes of Wisdom, which, reminder, basically takes place from the Gerudo dungeon to the end of the game? So it's a large chunk of the game. It's probably like 70% of the game, something like that.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Not to jump too far ahead, but a particular character talking a little bit. Not that we necessarily hear it, but that mouth moves around a little.
Right, that was mentioned, yeah, but
Okay.
not the most common. Jeffem, what about you? What do you think?
Was it Condi, the super depressing Yeti?
Depressing, really? I thought he was like super optimistic, and I kind of read him differently, I guess.
Yeah, he's optimistic, but his whole story is depressing.
Going out to his dad's
witness.
grave, being like, "Gotta
Yeah.
go to work today, Dad."
But he's in good spirits about it. No, that wasn't it. I'm sorry, Jeff. Kelsey, how about you?
I really want it to be, because this was all I could think of, that it was called Prime Energy, like the stupid. These are not good, by the way. I bought one of these just to hold it up to the camera. They're not very good, but
Just not even to drink it.
I probably will get thirsty and drink it at some point during this. But yeah, the whole crux of this game is about something called Prime Energy, which, Mr. Zelda, has that ever been? Is that like a thing I should know, or is that new to this game?
I'm almost certain it is completely new to this game, and I
Okay.
know the Mr. Zelda is like a joke. I
know.
There's a lot of Zelda
Sorry.
lore that I'm not gonna get like specifics on, but yeah, as far as I can recall, and I haven't gone into like the Zelda wiki, I think this is the first mention of that, which is like I thought was pretty cool as someone who likes Zelda lore, of like. This is like some deep-seated kind of like evil, I guess you could say. Like, I don't know, evil's maybe even too strong a word, but just like early, like way, like but with the goddesses were creating the world, this thing was there. This isn't like a guy who's embodying the spirit of Ganon or something like that. Like, which I like that sort of approach to it. But the most common comment, which really was like 2 or 3. Yeah, maybe 3 here, is the final boss. We're jumping ahead a bit here. Most people did not like how you basically lost the sword fighter ability and you had to fight alongside Link, which a lot of comments were saying, and I agree with this, is conceptually cool, but practically, I kind of get where they're going, because I mean, like I said, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but maybe you guys approach this all differently, but I had the Lionel, which was like I used it constantly. And that it was kind of like the final boss was me just throwing out the Lionel and just staying away from the boss while Link and the Lionel went to town.
I want to know where you got the Lionel, because it was either the final boss or just one of the times like something towards the end where they threw a Lionel out at me, like a shadow one. And I was like, wait a sec. Are those in the game?
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I never
got
saw one.
Yeah. Now you guys know the woods at the near right. It's like one of the penultimate tasks is like you have to like do the torches in the woods.
The Eternal Woods? I think
Yeah, you can go there anytime, obviously, but there is a Lost Woods style path that you can take through those woods to arrive at a Lionel. It's I feel like I'm dancing around spoilers, which may be a silly, but if you look on the ground, you can see like horse tracks. And if you follow the horse tracks and you, like I said, it's like you kind of weave through the forest in a specific way, eventually you'll end up in a clearing where you fight a Lionel and then you get the echo. And then you literally never use any other echo in terms of combat for the rest of the game.
Yeah. That was like Dark Knight 3 for me until I got the Lionel. It's just like Dark Knight, fight.
I had the level 3 sword moblin, which was pretty good. But honestly, I was using those wizards a lot.
Those are good.
Or whiz robes. I forget what the Zelda name is for them, but yeah, I was using those a lot just because they disappear before they die. Like they keep like teleporting to different parts of your little arena. So I don't know. I thought those were
they were
fun.
certainly annoying to fight. So
yes.
I can see how they would be helpful.
Yeah,
in that regard.
And just to double back a little bit, I did want to read Pancake Time's comment here. Taking sword fighter form away for the final battle really underscores the game's biggest flaw. They didn't come up with anything uniquely Zelda, the character, for combat. I love the idea of Link and Zelda facing the final boss side by side as equals, but without a direct combat ability of her own. It felt too much like I was simply supplying support or playing support for Link, as he and my echoes did all the actual damage.
Which is such an interesting final boss thing. Like,
yeah.
I didn't hate it. I do agree that it's weird and kind of not fully fleshed out, but it is, it's just so interesting to go to the last boss of a game and be like, actually, you don't really do any of the fighting in this. Like, I guess you could summon a rock and throw it at him, but like you basically are doing no actual fighting. And that's just a very strange thing for the last boss of the game, as opposed to like, I don't know, like a challenge mini boss or something like that.
Yeah. Gavin C. This is something I didn't think about till I read Gavin C's comment here, and now I'm like sort of like, yeah, obviously. I'm really surprised they didn't give us the Bow of Light for the final boss.
Yeah.
Seems like a slam dunk to let us use Zelda's equivalent of the Master Sword that we've seen for decades in other boss fights from the series. I ultimately felt more like a bystander in the final fight when Link and my Echoes did the work, which, yeah, like I hadn't really thought about that, but I was like, yeah, of course they should have given her a bow. Like that would have, I don't know, that would have been like thematically consistent with the rest of the series, and I think it would have been fun to just like have this like endless bow that you could add to the fight. But yeah, that's a good call, Gavin C.
And I also never used Link's bow during the whole game when I went to sword fighter mode. I don't know if you all did.
Oh,
but
really?
Yeah,
I
I
was
only
like the
ever
opposite.
just
I used the
button
bow so
smashed.
much.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So then you might have felt like you wanted it the whole. I was thinking like maybe Link doesn't have a bow the whole game that we copy, and then we get our own personal at the end. But if a lot of people are still using the bow during the game, I just used it for the mini boss is slightly weak, button smash beside him, sword fighter mode,
yeah.
while my Dark Knight also hits him at the same time, sort of energy.
Did you guys do that side quest where you had to join the clouds, like the electric clouds together to turn them into an enemy? Does that sound familiar to any of you?
No, I didn't do that one.
Like there was a boss and it's like 3 little clouds and you have to, and they're kind of Pac-Manning around a stage, and then you have to sort of block them off
yeah.
so they all, yeah, like I used the bow a lot on that guy because he was a floating cloud. But otherwise, yeah, the bombs I like didn't level up at all. I maxed out the sword and the sword meter, and the bow I have one more level up left, but the bombs I just was like, this just feels like you're wasting your meter if you're waiting for bombs to explode.
Yeah, that the whole leveling up those abilities felt like a weird, like almost like they had to do it or something, and it just didn't. There were a lot of things in the game that kind of ended up feeling superfluous, and that was one of them where it was like, yeah, I mean, I went back every now and then and basically just did sword damage and the length that I could use it, and that was kind of it. And once I maxed those out, I think I did the bow once because I had extra, energy to do it or whatever, but it was never really anything that I felt super engaged in, or I have to do this, or this is going to be cool when I do upgrade it.
Yeah.
And I think the entire game, and I guess it's my own fault, but like I crafted one smoothie, I think, because it was a side quest, and otherwise I didn't bother with smoothies for the entire game.
The smoothies take too long. We talked about this last time, but the smoothies, having to watch that animation every time was way too much. And I don't know about you guys, but I ended up with, way too many ingredients by the end of the game because I'm just not using, even though I was making smoothies, I was not making nearly enough of them to use up all the ingredients. I had so much money at the end of the game, I actually don't know what you were supposed to spend it on.
Did you find the fairy?
No.
You didn't find the fairy at all?
That's where you spend your money.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't find any damn fairy either.
What is
Really?
Oh no.
Where were all these things?
I
went across the entire map.
Bottles.
I don't know how we're missing so
same.
many things.
It was in the middle of the
unlocked the whole
lake.
map.
Yeah, it was in the middle of a lake.
Let me, before we get to the fairies, Haley, you found the fairies?
Yeah.
Like, this is gonna kill you guys. So let's read this comment first before we talk about the fairy.
Great.
Joe Dean says, I want to say I think the recipes / food in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, all the echoes of wisdom, make the game too easy. When you could hold a couple of fairies and get hearts in the old game, there was a real fear of dying. When I have 20 smoothies that fully heal me, 4 fairies and 50 of each type of food, there's absolutely no way that I'm going to get a game over. And I never did in Echoes of Wisdom. Still love the game, but would have appreciated a higher sense of risk.
And a bed. I was using that
multiple beds.
Fight.
I kept getting better beds the entire game.
I did. I mean, I went after that mission where you make a certain number, right? I think ultimately you can make 20 different smoothies. And I did that. And then there was one smoothie, I think it's like milk and honey, that like gave you meter and gave you hearts that I just always stocked up on. I went through the trouble of like watching that animation. I wish I just could have made 5 at a time or something like that. But I would always run out of meter. I leaned on the sword form a lot, so it was just nice to have that. But yeah, Jeff, I'm surprised that you. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised because it's not a very challenging game, but it's like that you only made one is
yeah, there like I got to a point where maybe I was a little obstinate about it, and it was just like I don't need to do this, and I don't want to spend my time, running around and getting resources, which you get the resources all the time anyway. But it was just like I see that you want me to do it, and I don't feel a need to do it, and I just didn't want to do that side quest where it's like make every kind of smoothie. I just didn't want to engage with that side of the game.
I'm going to read this comment from James and Jeff and Kelsey. We'll see if you can sort of understand the context of the fairy. James says, "What did you all think about the accessories mechanic? It was good to have the goal of getting more options by paying the great fairy, and it was nice to be able to swap at will, but some accessories once acquired felt essential, such as the frog ring, which made you jump higher." Side question.
That's what I had equipped the entire time.
Yeah.
Side question, is it me or do other people get worried when they get too many rupees because you will think you will hit a wallet limit? Yeah, I mean, I'm glad. It sounds like Haley and I found it. It is very expensive, but the fairy lets you equip multiple accessories, up to 5.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't find that many accessories throughout the course of my playthrough. And again, like I recognize I didn't do like a completionist run or anything. I honestly just didn't have enough time to do something like that. But I did I filled out the whole map. I did several of the optional rifts, almost all of them, in fact. And yeah, I still feel like I just didn't come across that many accessories that
really
felt. Yeah, I mean, I probably had 6 maybe by the time it was over. But are there a
15?
ton?
Yeah,
You
I
had
had
15? Okay.
A lot of them
Yeah.
are kind of meh. It'll be like a belt that lets you have a bit more blue crystals fall out of monsters, and I'm like, I will never wear this. I'd rather just use the smoothie method and stuff like that. But there's about 5 that I don't want to sacrifice any of these because it would feel like I'm losing something, sort of energy type of accessory.
Yeah. I had 19.
Oh wow!
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah.
I had
jump height,
11.
I'm glad you're here, Kyle.
Yeah. and then because of the fairy, it's quite expensive, and I think to get the 5th slot is 1,000 rupees.
Mm-hmm.
And you also do a side quest for her where you bring her a necklace, and she'll give you an item that's like a radar for finding the sword upgrade items. So I had that equipped the whole. Yes, thank you. I had that equipped the whole time. But yeah, that's that. I actually had to sell things in order to do that quest. It was funny because you can sell the golden eggs for quite a bit, and I was like, oh, you know what I'll do? I'll make a smoothie with 2 golden eggs, and that'll be worth a ton of money. And it was worth less than a single egg. It was what are we doing?
It's not how Harvest Moon logic works.
I know. But yeah. So yeah, you guys gotta go find that fairy. She's east-ish. Really? Yeah, she's in the middle of a lake. There's a couple characters that will say oh, I heard there's a fairy cave. It's not that hidden. But I mean, I don't know. Now I feel like I'm insulting you guys. You couldn't find it. I'm sorry.
No.
I was too stupid.
I'm just glad you're here because I knew I was missing a bunch of stuff. Just
right.
Again, I mean, the fact that I don't feel like I found that many accessories, and I did, I did an okay amount of the side quests, but I mostly just did the ones where I felt like I could solve them pretty quickly. Especially anyone who was I've never seen snow before, and then I'm like, well, cool, let me summon you a snowball, I can do that, or playing tag or whatever, anyone who's got a little activity. But I figured there were probably some more involved ones that I wasn't doing and probably missing something cool with those. But
they had some cool ones where you the horse unlock one. That was really fun, where essentially you get your horse from Impa and you can then call it whenever you want.
I was going to bring up along the lines of missing stuff. I beat the game and then realized I never got a horse. And then I went back and did a few things that I hadn't done. I never found the ranch. And then when I went back, I felt a little stupid because when I looked at the map, there was clearly a spot that is just the outline of a ranch there, but it kind of blended in, so I didn't really see it the first time. And then I went there, and they were like, "No, you got to get one from the wilderness." And I wandered around in the forest for a bit and just never found a horse, and that like entire mechanism just completely escaped me. But also, I did not miss it really. I missed it in the sense that I wanted a horse, but not that I needed horse travel to get around the tiny.
It's just cute to be on it and do that for about 15 seconds and then be like, cool, and move on to just teleporting everywhere again.
Yeah. Fred DeNovo says, here's some knowledge that kept dropping in the Discord channel, which I understand that people would miss this thing. Did you know you can summon your horse anywhere by creating a carrot echo? It's almost as practical as just being a button, or a command to call a horse. But yeah, you have to find Impa in the castle, and she will direct you to get the horse. And then you have that's your horse. Like, you can always borrow a horse from the ranch. They're cool with that. But you have to do Impa's side quest to get your horse, which then you can take to do races at the ranch, which Haley, I think did you do some of those as well?
I saw your tweet about, oh my God, I got the perfect run for all 3 of them, but the short one, you have to do 17 seconds, and I was getting like 17.03, 17.05. You have to do it absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and it's weird because I did the first one a bunch, and I was like, wow, these must be really hard. I guess maybe I'll come back to these later. And then I did the middle tier, and I got the ultimate time on my first try.
Yeah, me too.
And then the third tier, it was like maybe 2 or 3 tries.
I'm the same way, yeah.
Yeah, that ultimate 17-second run on the first race was like, I must have paid like 500 rupees just redoing that race over and over. I had so much butter.
What do you get? You get like the horse, the thing that lets your horse attack go up higher or something like that.
Something I
didn't even use. I don't think I ever used my horse to run into monsters, so what's the point?
Yeah, so you really missed on the horse, Jeff, and let me tell you.
Apparently.
Tell you what. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of jumping all over the place, but I guess in the trajectory of the game, the Gerudo dungeon was the next one, which, I don't know. Do you guys have a lot of thoughts on the dungeons? There's a couple that stood out to me. But the Gerudo one, I don't really remember a lot about it. I don't know if it didn't really stand out to me in a big way. Maybe you guys have better memories of it.
That one felt the most like standard dungeon vibes. Like, I felt the Korok Seed one and the Mountain one were a lot more charming in that, like, oh, we love to eat this candy web, and they're all being cute, and they just like don't really mind that their village is getting all messed up because they get a treat out of it. And then the Mountain one had the really sad but happy Yeti guy who kind of reminded me of the Yetis from Twilight Princess. More Yetis in Zelda. I like when they do Yeti stuff. It's always cute. But
I gotta say, I was upset that we were going up a snowy mountain. I was like, all right, bird people, it's Rito time, and then we got a Yeti instead. And I was like, oh,
that's fair. That's fair.
I had mentioned it, I think, on the MinnMax show. There's a race called the Anuki, which have only appeared in Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass, and they're like they're like snow people. And when Condi showed up and he had horns, right? Condi has horns, I think. I was like, oh my gosh, the Anuki, they're back! And I was like, wait, is this an Anuki? And I googled it, and like, it is meant to be the Yeti race from Twilight Princess, Haley.
Okay.
Like, that is considered like a race that we don't see very often.
These Anukis are cute. They should bring them back.
They've never shown up again outside of those DS games. But Garrett Holfish says the similarities between Condi's story and Twilight Princess's Snow Peak ruins were surprising. In Twilight Princess, sorry, heads up, spoilers for a dungeon in Twilight Princess here. Yeto is caring for his sick wife Yetta, who becomes possessed and fights you as the final boss of Snow Peak Ruins. A great part of Twilight Princess, like one of the most memorable dungeons in the whole franchise. In Echoes of Wisdom, Condi's father passed away while his brother was off exploring. For a while, the story leads you to believe Condi's brother had become possessed as an echo. I'm glad to see Yeti finally returning to the series, and I'm glad their stories to continue to convey heavier themes, which is what you guys were talking about earlier. That it was probably maybe the most memorable sort of story around a dungeon. I don't know, maybe.
Just like the
Yeah.
most stuff going on. Like that's the Twilight Princess one. I love that one. You snowboard into this mansion and then you make soup for a big Yeti and you go through his whole house with cannonballs and then his wife is crazy. Like that's just so fun.
It's so good. Yeah, I mean, not to go into Twilight Princess too much, but like the thing I love about that dungeon is like you're 20 minutes into it and you're like, oh, I'm in a dungeon. I thought I was like just in somebody's house, which I
True.
loved. Yeah.
But that Gerudo dungeon, boy,
yes,
yeah. I did the one thing that I did like about going to Gerudo this time is like there was no issue because you're a woman finally, and it's just like it's a town full of women, and you were just completely accepted and whatever.
Yeah, that did stand out to me too, actually. It was just like, oh yeah, like I don't have to do any sort of like putting on an outfit, any sort of trickery. I just waltz in. Yeah. I just waltz in and just one of the gals this time.
The Great Fairy was kind of
Zelda's
like
a girl
too.
this time, Kelsey.
That's great. As I said last week, Zelda's a girl this time. I hope I never live that down.
So funny.
I thought that when the Great Fairy was just like a girl's girl too. Like I hope y'all do talk to her because it's whenever Link meets up with the Great Fairy, at least in the more recent ones, they're always like obsessed with them and like low-key horny for him for some reason. You're like, okay, it's a little weird. But then you think like, oh, they're gonna do the jealous girl archetype from like the 90s and those kind of things always did. But they're like, oh my god, you're cute. Do you want more cute things to wear? And I'm like, yeah. And then they just like make you more cute. And when you do finally max it out and pay the 1,000, you can still ask like, can I accessorize even more? And she's like, you're perfect. She's like, don't change a thing. You're like, oh, I love the Great Fairies. Like, they're just really cute in this game too.
I also like that, and then also like next to that, she's like, but by the way, like I'm a capitalist here. Like I love rupees. I love rupees as much as I love your look. Is basically like her character, which I think is really funny. A lot of the Gerudo comments are actually outside of the dungeon. Kevin Cooper said there's a side quest where Gerudo is asking to see a tumbleweed. I tried using the Ultra Hand ability, but I must have missed it as I spent the next hour using the tornado echoes to blow a tumbleweed in front of them.
Oh my god!
Which I don't think you can do it that
That's
way.
absurd. No.
Yeah, Kevin gave up eventually, but found that you can grab it with Ultra Hand hours later.
It's kind of hard even with Ultra Hand though, because if you, I mean, I did that one, but it took me several tries because, they conveniently place just enough stuff in your way where you kind of have to. You have to have just the right like length from it to be able to like maneuver around things, and I think I had to like jump. Make some boxes and jump on top of them and stuff to get over obstacles. So it was more difficult than I thought it would be, but
yeah. Did you guys have any? I had a couple moments like that where I was doing things really in a old school complicated Zelda way that ended up, I just was overcomplicating it. There was one where you have the little electricity guys sort of bouncing around the room and you have to get them to go into a block. I don't know if this was mainline stuff or side quest stuff, but you have to like get them to go into this square. And I was like setting up blockades with rocks and stuff and like, sort of like managing them to get them to go in here. And then like that puzzles type came back a couple hours later and I realized I could have just totally grabbed them with Ultra Hand and just threw them in there.
Yeah.
I was like,
now that you say that, I realize I did it the hard way too.
Me too.
Yeah, well, I'm not alone then.
I definitely did some stuff the hard way. I don't remember that one in particular, but there were definitely some ones where I was doing something fancy instead of using the it's not officially called Ultra Hand, right? That's okay. Whatever the like using try to possess something and grab it. I guess Ultra Hand is a better shorthand for that though. So.
And there was every now and then I would remember in combat against whatever random enemy type of like, oh, I can just grab these guys and hold them still so that my, flying enemies or whatever it is that's giving me a hard time. But I remembered that probably like 10% of the time.
Me too.
And all the other times it's like, well, I'm just going to keep spamming bats until one of them gets a hit in and I don't care how many dies. And
I was also like kind of lazy. Like it's just pressing a button, but I was like, just fight him for me. And then I did. It's like one more.
I'm going to
button.
bed. You figure it out.
It's one more button press to hold it completely still to make it 3 times faster. But for some reason, the extra button press feels like work to me. So I was just like bat, and I'd turn and like look for rupees in some grass while they did that instead.
You guys take care of that. I got to find some money.
I had a really stupid one where in the Goron area where you're supposed to be using birds to like go up the air pressure and then float down. I didn't know you could just like grab any bird and do that. So like the little hint was borrow the wings of another was like that little guy's father's anecdote list or whatever. And I thought only the cuckoos would let you do that because like in past Zeldas that's how it was. So I was like, oh, I never like echoed a chicken. So I went back to Kakariko Village and I couldn't echo a chicken. And I was like, how the hell am I supposed to do this? So I just brute forced it through that whole area, which was 10 times harder than if I just used one of the crows or something. And then I realized later on when I got the mechanisms from Drampy or whatever his name is, one of them was a crow, and when I set it up, it unlike the echoes, they don't fly up right away. This one kind of stayed on the ground, and I saw a lift, and when I picked it up, then it like did the same chicken thing. I was like, oh my god, I could have gone through that whole entire area 10 times faster if I just used the stupid crow. But,
I think that's something that's just really good about this game in general is that you can be stupid and brute force your way through things. This is what, like, doing that in Breath of the Wild is what got me, like, back into Zelda. I was like, I'm not very smart, but I can be creative. And so these games, basically since Breath of the Wild have at least let you try a bunch of stupid stuff and still allow it to work. And I appreciate that so much because, yeah, I bet we all solved some stuff in some very stupid ways.
For sure.
Haley, that is exactly how I tackled that dungeon as well.
Oh, good.
I never got that. I was like a lot of throwing rocks in the water and that yellow platform guy.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't like, to the point where I didn't like that dungeon. Where I was
Me
like, I don't
neither.
like how this is set up. I don't like that I just die by so often. And I was like frustrated with it. And I got through it. And I was like watching my wife play it that I was like kicking myself so hard. I was like, oh my God.
I used the like tile that levitates for a second and then zoots across a room. But when you do that through the wind, it breaks. So I was like, why would they design? Like, clearly I'm supposed to use the tile raising thing, but why would they do it so it breaks halfway across the room? Meanwhile, your wife's like nicely, relaxingly drift across the room 10 times faster. What can you do?
G Baby says, did anyone else use the flying tile echo all the time? Up until I got the cloud echo, I was just using this everywhere, especially in the stilled areas to skip sections of it. It gave me a thrill, like I was breaking the game whenever I was able to fly over a section of it, over a section and get it done speedily. That's definitely one of my most used echoes.
For sure.
Is that tile? Yeah.
I found them difficult to use, so I did not really use them. I did use the yellow platform, the like plat boom or whatever, a lot though.
Mm-hmm. You know what feels really game breaking is the black spider. You point it towards a wall and then you grab it with try and follow it, and it just goes up.
Climbs up the wall.
Yeah. I actually kind of ruined the setup for the mountain area that way because I just went up to the top of the mountain but didn't trigger any cutscenes on the way. So I got to the top and it didn't show me the like, you should go in this place to fix it. I was just like, what's the point in this? This is dumb. So I had to backtrack all the way down the mountain, meet that little guy, and then I was like, okay, now that I met him, I can go back up. Like I just kept jumping up to the top.
That's crazy. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, it almost kind of ruined it because then I had to like find where he was to trigger the cutscene to keep climbing, but I had already beaten all that with the spider. It was like one of the few times where, the game got a little bit broken because of how free it is and flexible it is with how you want to explore things. I just skipped a mountain and it was like, no, go back down the mountain so we can show you a 10-second cutscene and then you can climb the mountain. I was like, meh.
I was wondering if there was anything like that because I thought I found it to be overall like pretty good at catching the things that might otherwise break the puzzle. Like it would give you an invisible ceiling where you could, you could string enough weird things together to otherwise just like skip over a wall you needed to melt or whatever. So yeah, that's interesting that they left one in that you could just skip right past it.
You think they do like crazy snowstorm up there until you see the cutscene or something for like a story reason, but it had me really confused to the point that I had to look up a YouTube video to be like, why isn't the like entry point into the rift showing up? And then I saw that there was 4 cutscenes I missed. I was like, oh, so I had to just it felt kind of unintuitive.
I never hit anything like that, thankfully, where I was like got somewhere I wasn't supposed to be yet. Which is like the game is I designed pretty well. I mean, obviously there's an example here where it didn't work out, where it's like you can't, you can make progress, but I do admit, and it's like the old school Zelda fan in me, which I get the sense in this group that like you guys are really grateful to have, the Breath of the Wild influence of like just never say no to me, right? Like I know Ben Hansen likes that a lot too. But I have to admit that sometimes in the dungeons in particular, I did miss the sort of like give me the key I need to unlock this door. And I don't mean that literally. I mean like you are stuck in a room, there's only one way to get out of here, and like you have to figure it out. There's one answer. And the sort of the longtime Zelda fan in me does miss that sometimes. And my thought was always like, we'll have the mainline Zeldas, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, that are more open-ended. And then maybe there'll be 2D versions that kind of hew closer to that more old school Zelda style. And this is kind of in the middle, which is cool. But like, I am kind of jonesing a little bit for that old school Zelda game that's very much you get an item, it unlocks this door, et cetera, et cetera. But like, I think I'm kind of on an island with that. I don't know. Do you guys feel that way? Or are you just totally happy with what Zelda is in 2024?
I felt it a little in like the first couple dungeons because they were shorter and they were a little simpler. And then you get to some of the later dungeons. I think it was the Ice Mountain dungeon, where you're melting walls. And the dumb thing that I didn't realize was that you could switch those orbs back and forth between being ice or being, and so like there were parts where I brute forced myself through certain rooms, not realizing like this is way too hard. Like I'm missing something for how I'm supposed to get past those things. But I was like, some of the later dungeons were much larger and they felt a little more old school to me. But I was also getting to the point where I was getting a little annoyed by it too. And it was kind of a careful what you wish for scenario for me, where it was like, man, I don't know that I need longer dungeons or dungeons where I can't figure out the one thing that I'm supposed to be doing in them. Like I have nostalgia for all those old dungeons too, but it's harder for me to put myself, back in like the water dungeon that I could never figure out and got super frustrated by. And I don't know how I would react to being in that situation again. Because here it was like, I think I'm done with the longer dungeon, and I just want a shorter, like more free form thing again.
Yeah, the puzzles have kind of become more get this to here and not use your item to get out sort of thing. It's just like move something into the room and do whatever you want to do that, versus you have a hook shot, get out of here. And you're just like, well, how do I use it? It's I guess it's just a different way of doing room puzzle. I do like the flexibility, but I do miss the feeling of like an old school 3D Zelda where it's like, oh, the flying beetle, and then now everything is use the flying beetle to fly and hit the eyeball somewhere
you
in
see
this
the
map.
world open up a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Which I like. But I like both versions. I'm not saying one's like better than the other, but I'm just kind of, I miss it now at this point, which is like, if we're, what was it, Breath of the Wild is like 2017,
Yeah.
I'm ready for like, which is, honestly is maybe just a remake of like Oracle of Seasons or something. Maybe that's all I need.
The big game
I
design
do.
question there is kind of, could you do both things at once? Could you have
I don't
the
know.
items that you have a whole dungeon built around with the flexibility they're trying to give us so that we can not feel boxed in? That's like top tier game design questions though that I have no idea how to answer.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that would be hard and maybe impossible. It would be hard. But I do think here, like some of my favorite moments were when you did get an echo that kind of gave you one of those, it wouldn't be a hook shot, but it would be like, okay, now I have the tile that I can fly across the room on, and I can see like this is where I'm supposed to use those kind of things. Or the mole too, like you get the mole and it's like, oh, of course I'm supposed to dig down through that one spot that I saw, off in the overworld map or whatever. And those parts were the things that made me nostalgic for kind of the old formula a little bit of like, yes, I have this item. It's very useful, and that feels good to have gotten it.
Yeah, I mean, as a result, my favorite dungeon personally, I think, was the ice temple on top of the mountain, because that felt the most like there's specific ways to do this, like with the melting the walls and stuff like that. And Greg Pivo, this is like one of the puzzles. Like it was a rarity. I guess it almost feels like a brag, but like the only time I got stuck a little bit was on this puzzle. Greg Pivo writes, I never did learn the intended solution for the simultaneous button puzzles. I think maybe they're talking about all of them, but it seemed like they
Like
were
with
trying.
the little walking.
Well, the ones
statue
the
guys?
switches that have to be depressed
Pushed at the
Just at the
simultaneously.
same time. Yeah.
And
I think
this
I know the one you're thinking about, Kel. They did it a few different ways. One was like with little guys that you could move to step on at the same time, and there's ice cubes you could push.
I thought you literally always had to use those guys
Oh,
for the
interesting.
simultaneous button.
that's
I
interesting.
solved all of those with that because I thought
So
you
you made
literally had
echoes
to.
of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
See, okay,
interesting.
I never did that. Yeah, so Greg Pivo was saying it seemed like they were trying to nudge me to use a mechanic that didn't exist, like a multi-bind that would let me move two objects at once. Because what I always did is if there were objects in the room, like the rocks or something, I would echo like a block on top of the switch and then make my echoes disappear so things would drop on them at the same time.
Oh, that's smart.
But then there's in the ice dungeon, there is one room where there are no items in there at all. So like you can't you can't do it that way. And Kelsey, it sounds like you got the right idea where you had these moving statues.
I
took care of it for
literally
you?
thought those little square statues, I thought that meant you had to use that echo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because they had
Oh,
a specific pattern on the button every time. Every time
Yeah.
there's a simultaneous button press.
that is what they were hinting at. Yeah. For that one in the ice dungeon, I slid a ice block across the floor and then quickly jumped over on the other switch to land on it at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
it took-
complicated.
It
See,
took
this
me a
is
while
cool.
to get. Yeah, it took me a while to figure out the walking statue guys, and at which point I was like, oh, of course. There was one where I ended up having to solve it by, I think I spawned one of the jumping water bugs and then just waited for him to
Oh, no.
randomly jump onto one, and I was standing next to the other one, just
Oh.
waiting and being like, this can't be the solution. But it worked, so it took a long time. It took way too long, but
C's get
Yeah.
degrees, you know?
oh, I think in that one the floor is water, and so like he was jumping across the water, and I didn't realize. Oh, if I
okay.
switched that orb to ice, I could have frozen the floor. So yeah, that dungeon gave me quite a few problems as I was going through it, but it was nice that like I didn't get completely stuck on it.
Yeah, you don't.
you know,
It's tough to get truly stuck in this game, which is nice.
You did a dual button press while that room was still water, Jeffem? That's crazy. I feel
That
like
is
that's
yeah,
crazy.
I created that stupid guy, and then I just sat next to the other one, and like I would have to like ultra hand him and like kind of move him over into that corner, and then like swim back and stand by the other one, and I should have realized much earlier that like there's like Nintendo would not reasonably expect other people to try and solve it this way, but
I like the
much
idea
did
that
you
like
panic when you stepped on it? Where you're like,
yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, he did it a couple times where it was like I was not ready or I was not back yet, and so that was what like kept egging me on, because it was like, well, okay, he did step on it and it did switch colors, so as long as I can get to the other side, but then I would just sit there and wait for him, and they'd just jump all over. It was very dumb. But
I'm sorry that
I-
that happened to you, Jeff.
I did really like those the orbs with the little like fire or ice in them, and that you could change the element. Like I don't know, I just really appreciated. I wanted more of those puzzles because I really liked that. I was like, oh, I can change it to fire and then it melts stuff, and oh, I can change it to and I think they only used it like 3 times, but I thought it was cool.
It felt like one of those like a more traditional Zelda puzzle mechanic to me, which is why I think I liked it. Pedro B said the Fire and Ice Temple is a big highlight for me, as it is easily the best dungeon in the game, and in at least a decade for the series, which is very high praise. The puzzles are cool, not frustrating, and I felt it would fit perfectly in Link to the Past or others. And then also, speaking of the sort of ice area, this comment from Mason Cowell I thought was really funny. Mason Cowell says, if you lay on a bed in one of the areas, you're taking damage from the cold. Rather than Zelda's normal resting face, she keeps making her in pain expression. She continues to take cold damage while the bed heals her.
I
thought
think
it was
she also does that when she's on fire and you jump in bed. I don't know if you guys often jumped in bed while on fire, but I did that a lot of times.
Does it burn the bed?
No.
No,
Nice.
that's funny. I thought this was hilarious and also a little dark. Very much you're healed but still hungry energy from Chrono Trigger, which is a good, fun reference.
That's fun. I
Um,
was whipping out that bit ever since you told me that last time, Kelsey. I was like, oh my god, of course. Like when I was fighting the score chill guy, he was actively throwing like fireballs at me, and I would just be like, get in bed, like a Zelda's bed that gives you 3 hearts very quickly.
Yeah. Once you got
Nice.
Zelda's bed, that was
Oh,
a game changer. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did you guys think of the was it Farron is the area with the cotton candy obsessed folks? That was cute, right? It wasn't as moving as Condi up in the mountain, but they just really like the Deku scrubs really like cotton candy.
I always love the
Alright.
Deku scrubs. They're such little freaks in every Zelda game they're in. I appreciate that about them. And I liked that this was their little area. I was trying to think of, have we ever, besides like maybe Majora's Mask, if there's ever
It's
been
about
like
the only one, yeah.
yeah, like a Deku scrub town, and here it's just a couple little dirt piles and they're cotton candy and they're all just having fun. I love
Yeah.
that for them.
Ben with one end says, "No other game has made me crave spider webs."
I thought
way
they were
this
very
game
cute.
has."
Mhm.
Is spider webs the new marbled rock roast? Sentence I never thought I'd say, says Ben with one end.
Mm.
Let's see. Sean S says, I really enjoy the game's humor. It has a lot of small things that make me laugh. When Zelda gets the Tri-Rod back from the Deku Scrub, she just has this hilarious frown.
It's sticky, it says, and I was like, oh.
There was in that area where you don't have your wand, then there's like, I forget what it is, but there's a room with like a puzzle where if you stack things, you can get up on top. Like I
Mhm.
spent so much time in there. That was like the example of a puzzle that my wife was like, I'm gonna watch how you do this and like compare it to how I did it. Where I spent all this time in there and I like did get up there by stacking things in a very specific way. And then I like walked out the door and like got my tri wand like 5 seconds later and realized I just totally could have gone back in there and like doubled back and used one of my echoes to just get it like no problem. I just assumed that I would be like blocked from going back there, but which was silly to assume that in this game because it never blocks you from going anywhere once you're in there once.
Yeah. No, that was a fun area. I was worried when I realized it was going to be like, you lost the power that you love so much sort of area, but it was fine. It was short enough that I wasn't like, oh my god, enough. Move on.
Yeah.
Spencer Botine says there definitely seems to be an expected order for tackling the temples because I decided to check out Farron Temple first out of the 3. I came out with both the level 3 Lizalfos and a level 3 Darknut, which frankly starts making the majority of encounters incredibly trivial. Do I regret my decision? Nope.
Mm-hmm. That I used that level 3 Darknut the whole rest of the game. That was like my main one.
I did too, and then I also used the Lizalfos a lot because when you target it onto a character and you spawn them in, they kind of spawn in like in a jump and with a stabbing motion that was like really good for some enemies if they'd move too quick to get away from characters or flying enemies and stuff, or if they were up a little higher, you could just spawn them in, get that one hit, and then spawn another one and hit them again. And kind of cheese your way through some annoying.
I started using the wolves a lot more after you pointed them out last time, Jeff. And they're good. Yeah. The white wolf one you get later in the ice temple.
Mm-hmm.
Good one.
One thing I have seen a lot of people talk about Link to the Past in relation to this game because it is Link to the Past's map basically, except like pushed out further beyond the boundaries, which I think is really cool, and I like that. I love that you could find Link to the Past like quote unquote dungeons and go in them, and there would be like maybe like an optional boss or something like that. Like I thought that was really cool. But I also was surprised at how much Ocarina of Time stuff was in there. I don't know if you guys are like Ocarina of Time is like my favorite Zelda personally, But there were like the fish right in the Zora area is like a direct reference to Ocarina of Time. The wolves that you're talking about are like their design is really similar to the Ocarina of Time
Oh,
designs.
I have trauma from those Ocarina of Time wolves. They're so
Yeah.
scary as a kid.
And then the boss in the Fire Temple is the boss from the Fire Temple in Ocarina of Time, like down
Oh,
to having the
yeah.
same name and everything. And I just as an Ocarina of Time super fan, I loved that sort of overlap. Like it was, I would be curious. I haven't read that yeah, that Nintendo, that Iwata Asks style interview yet, just because I didn't want any spoilers or anything. I'm ready to go back and read it now. But I wonder if the team just likes Ocarina of Time a lot in particular or anything like that, or maybe it's just Zelda stuff that I attribute to Ocarina of Time that isn't necessarily Ocarina of Time, but it just feels very Ocarina of Time. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
This one felt very like a love letter to Zelda, a little bit sort of game. Like I actually,
Sure,
a lot of, to be fair, I didn't notice a lot of them because I watched videos after of just like a bunch of secrets you didn't see in Echoes of Wisdom. I just like Zelda lore videos, and after I finish a game to be like, what didn't I catch? And there's so many little Easter eggs that you'd never, like in Link's house. There's so many references like Minish Cap and Link to the Past and all the other one, like the fact that he's always sleeps in, which is like Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time and stuff. Like his bed looks like he just went, oh, like jumped out of bed and then ran off to do his adventure. He has the Link to the Past hat sitting on his thing. His carpet's from
Yeah.
Minish Cap. Like all these little things. It's very cute to see. I like that this has come so far that they're just chucking in their own self-reference Easter eggs throughout the entire game.
Yeah. I really liked the sort of plot structure in that once you finish the Gerudo and the Zora dungeon, the sort of pretense of Zelda being the villain is gone, and she's got a different outfit and she's free to roam around and everyone knows who she is. I really was happy about that because I didn't want the whole game to be me going places and having to prove that I'm Zelda and stuff like that,
Mm.
So I was happy that it's like you got your father back right away, and he's just a guy that you can go visit whenever you want, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I liked
Truly
that too.
too
I thought
bad.
it was it was cool that there was I don't know, yeah, it felt like they were setting that up to be the plot of the whole game, and then it was like, no, that's not actually really the plot. You've gotten through that. And plus there was some, I think just the entire like Hyrule scene there, like the as the kingdom's getting swallowed and everything was very funny. General Wright, if you don't have to like go talk to the people as they're evacuating. But I walked around a little bit, and General Wright's just like holding an old lady over his head, and just very like. We talked about this last time, that the tone of this game is just very silly and kind of stupid in a fun way, like in like a pat your head, look at these little idiots kind of way. And that was like, I don't know, everything to do with the kingdom felt like that to me, where everything was just a little silly and like not taking it very seriously, but in a, I don't know, in a fun way. And so, yeah, it felt good that you're not like trying to prove that you're not evil the entire time, because that's a little bit of a mismatch with that tone, I think.
I always kind of hate when media does that because, like, whenever I have nightmares, I feel like I'm always doing that. I don't know about you guys, but it's like, no,
Me
I
too.
swear I saw that. You guys have to believe me. And it's
Oh
like,
my God, that's a
we don't
recurring
believe
nightmare for me, is that people
Me
don't
too.
believe me.
Yes, and I just don't like that feeling. So when it's gamified, I'm like, I'm not having fun. This feels like what I don't like. So the fact that they got rid of it very quickly, I was like, phew. Because if that was the main push to save the world, was that everyone likes me again too, that feels less, I don't know, it feels less Zelda
Yeah.
stakes than just we need to save the world in of itself.
Yeah. Joe
I also
Dean
like at
said-
the end of that scene, I think it's around the end of that, like after you've gotten Hyrule back together, like, and they reference this in the end too, and it's just a very strange thing to me. Tri asks Impa, what does thank you mean? And Tri like speaks like a pretty normal person
Yeah.
the entire game. Like there's no sense of like, oh, I don't understand anything about humanity at all in Tri's personality, except for that, except
Yeah.
for what is thank you. And then at the end, it's like this big revelation, finally understand. Thank you. I'm like, we're still on this? What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then
You-
tries
you
like,
talk
my
normal."
friends are in there. I'm like, so you know what a friend is, but you don't know how to feel gratitude towards someone else. Like, how can you
Yeah.
have a friend and not understand that concept?
It feels like an idea that just sort of, as they got further into the game, like made less and less sense to sort of, continue to do. Joe Dean says, after putting 200 plus hours in Breath of the Wild and 500 plus hours in Tears of the Kingdom, I am so thankful for a new, more manageable in size Zelda game. This isn't an insane game to complete, and besides the side quests, the game provides in-game ways to help you 100% it. Obviously, I enjoy Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but my desire for a completion usually means when okay, hold on. I enjoy Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but my desire for completion usually means when I finally finish those games, I'm also burnt out, but not the case for Echoes of Wisdom.
Nice.
Yeah,
I get
I
that
feel
feeling.
similarly. Yeah, I mean, like as much as I love Breath of the Wild, and even leading up to Tears of the Kingdom, and as I like finished Tears of the Kingdom, and I almost felt like I don't need another one of these for years. You know what I mean? Like that was like an emotional journey that I spent so much time in and just adored. But it's just like it's a lot, and to get that Zelda sort of flavor in a relatively short experience, I actually was grateful for. How completionist did you guys get? Are you, because like after you beat the game, it kind of helps you see how many heart pieces are left and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Are you gonna keep playing, or are you happy to have seen credits and probably move on to something else?
I right after I beat it, I think I played another night of just kind of doing the things that I didn't realize I hadn't done. There were a couple rifts that were still on the map that I didn't realize you could go into, because I swear there was
They don't
one
make
on the
that
map
clear.
there was one on the map at one point where I was like, well, I'm going to go down there, and I just could not get into it. And so from that point on, I just assumed like I must not have done, like the associated temple with it or something until then. So I just assumed that I couldn't do them. So I had like four of those that I kind of went into, and a few other places that I explored a little. Still couldn't find my horse. But then so like I played a little more and I enjoyed a little more, but I didn't feel the need to, like lock any of that in by doing the boss fight again, or like hunt down every heart that I hadn't gotten or anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm usually a completionist when it comes to Zelda, but I have hit a point. I think I have 12 heart pieces left, and I was just kind of like, a lot of this is just me walking around, which isn't particularly fun. It's not like shrines, where it's like, oh, here's a specific gameplay mechanic that you might have missed otherwise. But I did get all the echoes because at the end of the game, I saw I was only missing two. And they were pretty easy. One was I just missed making an echo of like the rock roast, which is very simple. And then the other one was, which I did have to look up. I found the list, but the other one I figured out on my own because it was the floating mages that Kelsey talked about earlier. I had the fire one and the electricity one, and I was like, I bet there's a water one somewhere, So I went and tracked that down. So I did get all the echoes, and I revisited every town. And if someone had a red exclamation point, I would talk to them, and I did every side quest in my book, but I'm fairly certain I did not do all the side quests. So that's kind of where I'm at myself. Is like I'm probably like 85% or something like that.
Yeah, I think I'm around that too. I remember you and I were talking, Kyle. It's like I dedicate a big chunk in the middle of my playthrough to just going around and doing everything but my final dungeon area. Like I left the mountain one for last just because it felt the most out of the way. And then all I did was just fill in the entire map, do all the optional side things. So Try was really leveled up by the time I was at the end game. Like she had the 6 triangles and things didn't cost very much. And I actually don't know if it's level 11, I think she ends at or something like that.
Yeah, it's the
But
max, yeah.
So I had her up to the max there and just like doing the horse thing, doing the drampy mechanical guy stuff. I'm like,
I did all those, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
that was another mechanism that like I just did not use at all. I
I've
unlocked
never
a
used
couple.
them.
I unlocked a couple of them, and then it was just like, and I was waiting for them to tell me what was going to be on the up, like the left arrow button, and it was like, and once you got that, it was like So they're like an echo, but they break, and then you have to use a resource to replace them. Like
You need to wind them up.
I get
Yeah.
that they were supposed to be a little more powerful or whatever, but I had Dark Nut. What more do you want? Come on.
Infinite Dark Nut too. It's not like there's a
Yeah.
cooldown, right? It's just like Dark Nut,
Yeah.
Dark Nut. Like you just always had it. The Crow one, I did use the Crow one, the Golden Crow or whatever, because I was trying to get 1,000 coins for the final fairy thing at one point. And I was doing the make smoothies and then sell them method, which seems like it would be quick, but when you realize that it costs 10 coins to make a smoothie and you sell it for 25, it's like, oh my God, I gotta make a lot of smoothies. And then I realized when you use the Golden Crow, it just like, even if it kills a low level character, it drops like blue and red rupees half the
That's nice,
time.
okay.
So it's like for money. I want to say money laundering, just money farming. So I would just went to like the basic area where you first start, where all the little green goo guys are, and I would just teleport there, use the crow. It didn't even take a scratch, and I just did that over and over again. I made like 500 rupees in 15 minutes. Like it's crazy how fast you get them.
Nice.
Did anyone ever? I didn't use them to the point of ever needing to repair them. Like I didn't
I
even know how to tell
repaired
if they
them
were
a couple
broken.
times.
Okay.
Yeah, you just use those rocks, and Drampy goes yippee, which he's from Ocarina of Time as well. Isn't he? I remember him being really slow. He's got to stand on a button or something in Ocarina of Time, or what?
Yeah,
I just-
He's always the graveyard keeper. He was in Majora's
Graveyard
Mask
keeper.
as well,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
and Minish Cap and Link. Ooh, he might have been in Link Between Worlds as well, and then he's also in the
Why is he so many? He's such a weird basic character.
yeah. He was
He's in,
also like
every
the
Zelda.
new mechanic added to the Link's Awakening remake, where you could find him and you could like make your own dungeons, which I'm checking online.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like not a single person did that in that game. This is just what I found. Rambling Adam says, I found automatons to be too much of a hassle to use in the main game. Sword fighter mode is always a better and more fun way to help your echoes in tough fights. But during the final boss with no sword fighter mode available, I wanted to do something besides summoning Dark Nut over and over. The Talk to Rock, Firework Cannon, and the Roboblin, intermittent long-range, high-damage directional slash, were actually pretty clutch in a winding speed-up... Oh, with a winding speed-up smoothie. So you could drink a smoothie that lets you wind faster.
There's also
While I
an
was
item
glad...
that does that too.
Yeah, that's you can find that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I was glad to finally have a reason to use those things. I still think slashing at Null with the sword alongside Link would have been more fun.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Just
the
echo the
automatons.
sword, Zelda. What are you, stupid?
For me, the
Yeah.
automatons were like the thing that I found, kind of like right before I went to the end boss. Like,
Oh,
That was same for
Yeah.
me, and I just ended up not using them. I
Yeah.
I did that like literally right before the end, and was just like, oh, that's neat, but I'm pretty set here.
Yeah.
I did like the puzzle way that you did the Drampy stuff, even if I didn't use the machines. It's like, I want something that has big cute eyes. And I'm like, ooh, and I was like going through, I'm like, who has cute eyes? This one? He's like, no. And I'm like, this one? Like, I thought that was fun.
There was one that he said. I'm pulling up the screenshot I took because. So this is kind of an extension of the Link's Awakening remake, right? With the sort of art style and the developer and everything. And the weird thing about Link's Awakening has always been that Kirby is in that game, right? Like Kirby is present in Link's Awakening. And Dampy had one of the automatons that he was talking about was he needed a creature that snaps and swallows things whole with its gaping jaws. And I thought for sure that it was going to be like a reference to Kirby or something like that, you know? Like I
Oh.
was like, maybe I'm making a Kirby automaton, which would have been really cool, and I think would have fit, right? Like considering
That'd be
Kirby's
cool.
presence in Link's Awakening. Yeah, an automaton that can gobble up any monster anytime was what he needed, which
Oh,
ended up
that-
being the flower. But yeah, no.
That should have been what they
wasn't.
did. It's like each one was another like Nintendo property reference. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
be one
or
for one, but it'd be
the-
cute.
Yeah, Chain Chomp was also in Link's Awakening, which would have been great. But
Oh yeah.
hindsight's 2020, I guess. For me, who did not work on the game.
for all of us.
Let's see.
Did anyone else wear the cat suit the entire rest of the
Oh,
game once
I
you
love
got the
the
cat outfit?
Sometimes I would switch
I did
back,
not.
but whenever I saw a cat, I would flop that sucker on to talk to it.
Maybe I missed a cooler outfit, but I was like, I can just be a cat the rest of the game. Why would I not do that? That's adorable.
Yeah, Poor and Curly says, what was everyone's favorite outfit? The cat suit is very cute, but getting to wear that funky stamp outfit after, oh, this is a spoiler, after finding all 25 stamps was quite the reward. I didn't get that, actually. That was
I
an
did get the
I
stamped
didn't either.
outfit, but I thought it was ugly, so I didn't wear it. I like cat better.
Can't pet the cats, but you can talk to them and say meow. Nintendo knows. They probably had a meeting to address this and decided, let's not do that. This is like not allowing climbing when it's raining. They're saying not being able to pet the cats. There was another comment about the cat suit that I'm trying to find here. Let's see. Dad Netflix says, one of the many highlights of the game for me was the outfit that lets you talk to cats you get in Kakariko Village. It provides almost no gameplay benefit outside of unlocking one quest, but I love the inclusion and had fun finding and talking to all the cats. The best cat you can talk to is the one in the old woman's house in Kakariko, who tells you that she knows her owner can understand her because her owner always gives big smiles when she says, I love you.
Aw, that's
Very
so
sweet.
cute.
I got
Zelda's cat was pretty indifferent. She's like, I'll look after your room, bye, or something. And I was like, okay. I was expecting like, oh my god, master, you can finally understand me kind of energy, but no.
I mean, that is what cats are like, though, right? Like, if
That's
a cat
true.
found out you could understand them, they'd be like, cool, I want food. Like, what do you... I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. You know what I want.
this is a total tangent. Are you guys familiar with the anime Psyche K? Do you know about this anime?
I know of it. I've not watched it.
He's a psychic kid, and the whole show, which is hilarious, is about how awful it is to have psychic abilities in like the contemporary world. Because he says one of the episodes he talks about how he can read animals' thoughts, and everyone's like, "Wow, you can read animals' thoughts?" And he's like, "Yeah, they just want to kill everything all the time. Like all they think about is just killing everything." And I just always think of that whenever I think about like if I could only talk to animals. It's like, maybe we don't want to know what animals are thinking all the time.
True.
There was one comment that really another one of those hindsight 2020 ones. Greg Pivo says, I saw a modded screenshot of a chic outfit from Ocarina of Time, and one of the comments rightly pointed out that this would have been the perfect disguise for Zelda in the first.
Oh, of course.
Come on, what are you doing? Or at
How
least
did I not think of
an
that
unlocked
either?
version, yeah. I used, you can get a couple outfits from Amiibo. They're pretty unspectacular, but one is the black cat, which has the same ability where you can talk to cats. And I unlocked it, and I was kind of bummed because I was like, I don't want to like use Amiibo to get like weird unlock, like talking to cats feels like I don't want that to be attached to Amiibo. So I was thankful that like you can get the cat costume in the game. The Amiibo one just gives you a different color, which is kind of
What Amiibo gave the cat
I did
one?
not know this game had Amiibo support. I should
it's
have
you
messed with
can
that.
get the only, unless like others have been found, you can get a black cat suit, and you can get a red outfit that basically makes Zelda dress like Link all the time. Like he looks like Link in his red tunic. And
Aw.
then there's a blue dress that's like very similar to her pink dress. That's very cool. Yeah.
Cute.
But I kept you can find one of the Gerudo side quests gives you like nice pajamas.
Yeah,
Kinda
silk
cool.
pajamas. Yeah.
Yeah, but the moment Zelda got her sort of standard outfit after those first few dungeons, and you get the ponytail that spins around like Dixie Kong style from Donkey Kong Country, that's all I wanted. I was like, I don't want to lose that ponytail. That's like so fun. So I just wore that the whole game. I didn't want to change out of that.
If you keep growing your hair out, Kyle, you can get a ponytail. You can
You could do it.
swish around.
It's getting there. It's about time.
I did appreciate just that there were, like, I don't know. I think it's important that in games like this you have a couple of little outfit changes. And the other, I mean, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and stuff had plenty of that too. But I don't know. I always appreciate it. I'm just like, yeah, I want to be able to mildly choose what I am presenting myself in the world as.
Yeah,
I wish
used
there
to
were
take
more.
the Zelda number.
I don't think there were enough, frankly. Like it's like a fun, not easy. I don't know how easy it is to make those, but it's like a good unlock. You know, like it's just having more choices, and Zelda has such deep lore that it's like you could do a lot of fun Zelda outfits. I mean, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom took full advantage of that by letting like you could dress as any Link you want from any of the 3D Zeldas. Basically, I would have liked something like that here. Excuse me.
Sound like you were tearing up a little bit. I would have really liked those outfits.
I would have loved. I just want to dress as Twilight Princess Zelda. Come on.
Uh,
Actually, Skyward Sword Zelda, honestly. That's my favorite Zelda.
Oh, mine's Twilight Princess, I guess say. Everyone's hot in Twilight Princess, except for the Ordon villagers. They're ugly as sin, but everyone else is hot.
That's good. I like her dress design in Twilight Princess the most, but her personality in Skyward Sword is always my favorite.
That's true.
Dan Duran says, favorite question my wife asked while she watched, what is that lemon following you?
I love the lemon. Oh,
Kelsey does.
Kyle, everyone poo-pooed me last week when I said Try is like the cutest sidekick in a Zelda game ever. What say you?
I mean, Try's not doing a lot for me. Like, Nintendo does this weird thing where I feel like sometimes, like, they're scared to, like, design interesting, like, characters. Like, they just always default to, like, geometric shapes. Like, the Paper Mario is, like, really bad about this. Like, after Thousand Year Door, all the, like, other characters you run into are, like, just, like, squares and circles, and these are just like, and Try just looks like a character from Mario Galaxy. I feel like it's just like it's like too simple for me. I don't know. I want something closer to a Midna, you know what I mean? Like something that's just
breaking Kelsey's heart.
Like a game like this. I mean, like that I would totally agree in a, in a Zelda game that doesn't look like everyone's made like little toys, like everyone's small and adorable and looks kind of play school figure-y in this game. And I don't know, like, I don't think I want a complex, I think I want just like a dumb round floating lemon like that, with like a cute face. That's
if tomorrow they announced, hey, we're making an amiibo of Try, I would be like, really? We're going to get that over like Zelda?
I went online to see if there was Try merch because
there any?
No, there's some people on Etsy making it, but none of it was going to arrive in time for the steepest dive anyway. So, but I want someone made a little like Try light, like it's a little fairy light kind of thing.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
I believe this is Try right here. This is a McDonald's toy for the Mario Brothers movie.
No, that's not
Try,
nearly as
right?
cute of a face.
No? Okay.
You guys, like, Haley, you said you have trouble figuring out what Try's face is.
Yeah, the eye.
I do a little too.
The connection to the mouth, like I don't.
Yeah.
Does it have a black eye or something? Like I just don't understand what that line is.
I don't know. It reminds me of the I forget if we said this last week. Maybe someone said this, but the Pokemon Chimico. It's like
it does look like kind
of like a little wind chime kind of thing with silly little eyes, and I don't know.
It is cute. I feel like I'm coming off as harsh. I think Try is cute, but it's not like this. Like this is the new Zelda design. I want a plush of this thing. I fear I'll forget about Try by 2025.
Try is 1,000 times better than Fee, which that's something.
Personality 150,000,000%. But I think Fee's like designed this ethereal sort of goddess is really cool.
She just kind of looks like she's made of jello and she's just a skinny woman who works at Barnes and Noble or something. Like, I don't know. I never got Fee. I don't really like
a robot. Yeah.
So specific.
Well, I love that
cookbook section.
I love the Skyward Sword HD for Switch. Like, they're one of the big things. They're like, yeah, Fee talks less now. So.
Oh my god, how telling is that? They must know when they create it that like no one wants to hear percentages, especially when your game doesn't have RNG. So like, why are you telling us percentages when we can't even like variety have things that require knowing a percentage or not? That's just insane. I hate her.
That's why I was always shouting.
So Kelsey,
tell me the odds at her.
Kelsey, what did you think of Null's design? Since it was basically like kind of evil Try, but still kind of a cute face like Try.
Did Null have a cute face?
It has like
I thought it was just like.
I think. It even kind of has like the connection to its mouth.
You know what's funny is I didn't see that as a face when I was fighting him. I just saw it as like blobs on the side because they kind of stick out. Like it's not like Tries are like just little pinpoint dots on the face, whereas Nulls are like.
Okay.
I see what you're seeing now, which is like bulging fish eyes on the side of the the purple thing. No, I did not think Null was particularly cute.
Okay.
I don't think you were
Yeah.
supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, he was like holding little tries for a while, and those were cute when they were in his little hands and just
His
the little
grotesque hands with
his
the
grotesque hands, but there were some
with
cute
all the
little
ligaments he had to
tries in there.
constantly rip off of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've jumped around a lot, but like this would be a good chance to just talk about Null and like the final boss and everything. You guys predicted last week. Correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe not last week. I'm sorry, the timing is all off, and that's irrelevant. This is like Fee telling you statistics. The last episode, you guys kind of predicted that there would be like an army of tries, if I remember correctly, right? Which is like not too far off of what happened. But it was more of like an aesthetic thing rather than a story thing. It's just that there were like a lot of tries in the background, which is kind of cool.
Mm.
Yeah, from the comments, the general sense is like that final boss was like fine, right? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't really exciting or super thrilling. It was okay.
It was sort of missing like a grander reveal or something. I felt like it very much like Kelsey sort of predicted it last episode, and that's essentially what it was. Except we got the name wrong, like Null
Yeah.
instead of what did we say? The opposite of try? Ert.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Pretty
called
good.
Ert.
Yeah. Well, now I feel I literally hadn't thought of that because I did not see this thing as having a face. But now that I see it, I'm like, yeah, that is just kind of
Pretty
evil
close,
try.
yeah.
That is, maybe I
Yeah.
got this right. But yeah, I don't know. I think there are a couple of phases to the fight, and like you get separated from Link and go through like a little portal, and then you're kind of underwater, I guess, and facing trying to fight like in the water for a small period. And I liked that transition, but then like that was the only interesting transition, and then you went back to just normal fight, right? Like that felt like they were building to something grander, and then they just kind of didn't.
Yeah, like they wanted these crazy phases, and it just didn't. It didn't hit. I have two. Oh, please go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say I did like that it would turn into like the other bosses that you'd fight for like an attack or two, and then turn back.
That's
I
cool.
like that. It was interesting that like it seemed like they had sleeping time built into like its attacks. Like there were just some attacks where it was like, okay, it's gonna take like 4 seconds to actually get to me now, and that's enough time to like sleep
Quick nap.
twice. Yep.
That's so
Um,
funny. Just hitting up a nap real quick. That is hilarious. Yeah, we have sort of competing perspectives here. Jared Natsis says, "This is now one of my favorite Zelda final bosses ever. Fighting alongside Link in such an active way was so much fun, though I'm not sure if Link's attack do real damage or not. I also appreciated the way it forced you to use echoes, though I could see how that might annoy some people who relied more on the sword fighter form. Finally, I'll say this. Caro Madillo, level 2 best echo in the game, especially against Null. Please respect my bouncy boys."
I love that everyone has such different, like, this is the essential echo.
Yeah.
I think that means they designed the echoes pretty well.
Yeah.
I just want to say that, like, I thought the dungeon part of leading up to that final boss, where you do lose your ability to fight, like, you don't just lose that at the like literal end, right? You get through some of the dungeon where you have to
Yes.
you're going
Yeah, there's a couple
alongside with
puzzles to
Link.
solve. Yeah.
Yeah, and that felt very like did anyone else play Triforce Heroes? Am I the only person that played that
Play to beat it.
3DS game? Okay.
Long
You can
time
check out my
ago.
That-
review on Error 404 Site Not Found.
Oh no.
And you can't even check the Internet Archive right now. It's down still as of right now. Like that was cool because it felt like what Triforce Heroes was trying to be but couldn't because it was basic, like it was unplayable if you were not doing multiplayer pretty much.
Hey, speak for yourself. I beat that game by myself.
I thought it was,
But you're right.
pretty
You're absolutely
cumbersome.
right. Yeah, it's
It was
not
cumbersome
nearly
without
fun.
doing the
Oh,
multiplayer,
yeah,
but like
absolutely.
that was I thought like a cool realization of that, where rather than just being different links who could all roughly accomplish the same things, it was like, no, like Link and I can do different things right now, and I have to like do my part of the puzzle, and he has to do his part of the puzzle. And he was like the machine intelligence or whatever on Link was pretty good. Like if I made a platform for him, he was like, I guess I get on this platform, you know? So he was pretty smart about that stuff. But I really liked that. I kind of wish that had been a longer dungeon series. Like I wish I'd had more puzzles to solve between me and Link.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to work with Link on the sort of opposite perspective, and you did get to do it a lot. But I guess there was a potential for it to be annoying if he ever even slightly wasn't doing what you wanted him to do. Let's see, to offer a different perspective on the final boss here, Adam D. The final boss was one of the single worst I think I've ever experienced in a Zelda game. Just spammed the 0, the flying bomb echo, and dodged, and everything was over before any challenge arose. I'm sure there were more complex ways to do this, but there was very little incentive to do so. Much like the rest of the game, where using a bed or the water echo was just the path of least resistance, why bother trying to come up with something complex? Yeah, I mean, it is interesting that it sounds like we all use different echoes to sort of take on the final boss. Like I had the Lionel, which was just the Lionel's fast and powerful. And I think it's the only echo that's 6.
I think it's the only one I had that was
notes.
6.
Yeah, I don't think there are any others. But what did you guys use against? What did you have? I know Jeffem took a lot of naps, it sounds like. I don't know.
Naps and Dark Nut. And then it was just trying to like
On a t-shirt that says
like
Naps the two things I do in the bedroom.
Damn it. I thought the boss fight was fine. It was a lot of like pulling on that thing's arms repeatedly, and also like grabbing it and pulling on an arm and then trying to pull it around so that either Link or Darknut would actually attack the part that it needed to. And that did get a little old, especially when it would only be like it's got one arm now and it's kind of facing a corner, and I have to try and run around and then drag it all the way back. And yeah.
I thought the wizards and other flying enemies were pretty good for that, because I could just target the arm, and I would often, hold it too, but like you can also just target it, and then the wizard would just kind of teleport by it and target that. So that made that a little bit easier. But yeah, I mostly used wizards, and then basically once he was down on the ground, I would throw something stronger that slashed faster at it, like a level 3 moblin or whatever.
Yeah, but I really did miss sword fighter mode. Like it's
and
even going into it, they had that little moment where it's like, are you sure you want to give all your best crap to Link? Are you sure you won't be able to use it again? And I was like, oh, like it made me go into the fight on a downbeat almost. And then I don't know, something about when Zelda and Link fight together, it's always this like it almost feels like emotional, and it's very like, here we go, the world's gonna be good again. And this one, it was fine, like it was still fun. I still really like this game. And it's also such a different tone compared to say not even like Tears of the Kingdom, which had one of the craziest end fights ever. Like can't even compare. But to something like Wind Waker feels like an easier comparison, like smaller scale, cuter art style. It hits different when the emotional beats weren't quite there for me, for it to be like, and here we go, swell and defeat. It was just more of like, I'm going to use these really cool systems, but those systems weren't good at emotionally delivering like story beats to me. They were just good at making me feel smart and doing things my own way.
I think the story, maybe I'm alone here, but I don't feel like the story had any. No. I never like felt anything in my heart while playing this game. I mean, there were clearly like, yes, Condi's story was like depressing, but it felt very separated from like I'm not really actually feeling anything for this Yeti guy.
And they weren't going for that either, right? Which I get.
Yeah.
But I always do. It's just like, there's the one where Zelda's the play. It's like Zelda's always been the cool support, and I didn't feel like the cool support. Like I could have still been the support, but I didn't feel very cool as I did it. Like when she has her glowing arrow riding on horseback in Twilight Princess and she's sniping Ganon while you like hit his ankles, you're like, oh man, she's so badass. Like I love Zelda. But here I was just kind of like, go fight for me. Like I didn't feel
Yeah.
like that very much, but it's hard to replicate, I guess, here.
Yeah, it's hard to feel like you thrust your sword into Ganondorf's head, like Wind Waker style, when literally you sent
a flip.
someone else to go do it for you.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah, I want to. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say while we're complaining about story beats, like it, and not to jump to the very end, but it was weird to me that like you go through all this and then at the end tries just like, okay, I'm gonna leave you, and thus you now have no power anymore, and then you just kind of frame your little wand, like the wand you just kind of hang on the bed and go back to being a princess. Like I wasn't expecting it to be like a big, like girl power moment, and now I'm a badass who saved the day and all those kind of things. But they really kind of backseated her in a way that even in like the kitty toy version of this world, I didn't completely love.
Yeah. Let's see. Paulo says, though I enjoyed the game overall, I did feel a bit underwhelmed by how they utilized Zelda. Making her a silent protagonist, just like Link, made her almost feel like just another Link echo. The sword fighter form underscored this. I'd love to see another Zelda title where they give her more character. Did anyone else feel like they could have done more in this regard? I think the answer is yes.
Yes, but also I guess I'm just like now I'm expecting there to be a don't take this the wrong way, but like a quote unquote real Zelda protagonist game, like a more
Mainline.
yeah, I
or
mean this
vibe
this
one.
was a fully competent Zelda game by itself. I'm not arguing that. It's just I think it's like a combo of it being a different system and a like kind of cutesy style and everything that makes it seem like something kind of in between. Like there could still be a Twilight Princess-esque game where you play as Zelda instead. Like that still feels like a thing that's possible in the future.
Yeah.
And I'm still, I guess, kind of expecting that in the future someday. I don't know when, but I don't know. This didn't feel like it needed to be a giant swing for like a serious Zelda game. I liked what it was, but I'm definitely like hopeful and expecting that they do something more serious with her in the future.
Yeah, I agree. This felt like a much needed type of game after Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Like that comment we had earlier. It's like this feels like a nice little appetizer style in between two huge turkey dinners. Like that was like a lot. I am fine with eating this little, nacho plate for a little bit. But it's like, and I don't think she shouldn't have been the lead in this one just for the sake of the first time is going to be Zelda's big thing. Like, but I'm glad that this is a Zelda game. But yeah, I still would like to see her. And there's like tons of avenues, like Wind Waker 2 with Tetra's perspective as a pirate or something, or Twilight Princess 2 with that version of Zelda. Like they could start to do sequels in other areas of the franchise and focus on Zelda's side, who rightfully has done a lot of stuff the same time Link is doing stuff. But it also would be cool to just have like, the AAA mainline Zelda game and Link just is, I don't know, not there.
Stuck in a crystal.
Yeah, he's just somewhere else. That timeline, he's not born yet, or however they rationalize it in the Zelda lore thing. She's just a cool character, and she's always been a cool character in every Zelda game I've ever played. She's always just... And they always treat her so different. Like, even when we talk about Skyward Sword Zelda, it's so different from Twilight Princess Zelda. It's not like we say Zelda and it's one person. Like, she's different in every game, which is really fun, too. Whereas I feel like Link is kind of the same in every one. Like, he's a bit sillier in other ones, but largely it's Link every time. So they could have more creative liberty with her, too.
You got Toon Link and then every other Link, basically.
Yeah.
Like what you got, yeah.
Exactly.
We're kind of talking a little bit about the ending here. Shoji Koto says, I really enjoyed the ending cutscene and credits in the game. Lots of little joyous moments that made me chuckle, like when Link finally speaks to the crowd of people at Hyrule Castletown, and they're all shocked by him doing it. Or during the credits when you see screenshots of how the various characters' lives have progressed, like the Deku Scrub, Sweet Tooth, shifting onto fruit rather than smoothies, which makes the business scrub sad. Darston cleaned his room and patched up the secret passage, or Condi jumping for joy and waving at his brother's hot air balloon returning. Yeah, that's a very Ocarina of Time thing
They
to
love
me,
doing
which
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
which maybe isn't fair to just attribute to Ocarina of Time, but that was the one for me that I had played for like a month up to that point, and to just have that joyous finale of like this is what everyone's up to during the credits. It's very like I've like the end of Totoro or something kind of, where
Yeah.
you get to see all the sort of moments of like it's like my favorite sitcom endings, where it's like the best way to end a sitcom is to go in the future and just let us know that everyone's okay. Like let's just do that. We're not necessarily coming back to this world. Just give us the wrap up with everybody at the
Wind
end.
Waker did that too, and I remember it
Yeah.
feeling really fun to just. It's almost like someone went and is a professional photographer and just traveled around and took pics.
Yeah.
That's always cute when they do that.
I will say that ending scene though, where Link talks for the first time and everyone's just kind of standing around the castle. It felt like 2 solid minutes of just gesturing and people moving their mouths and
Yeah.
nothing actually happening. And I was like, I get the point after like, it was the same scene because no one's actually saying anything. There's no voice or anything in this game, and they weren't doing any actual text boxes or anything. So I felt like that was a very strange choice of like, this goes on for a very long time when like the point of the scene is expressed in like 10 seconds, but everyone just keeps emoting back and forth at each other.
Yeah.
Bob Buell says, I thought it was very interesting that they canonically made Link mute in this game. I believe it is the first time that it's official in the series. In the basement of Blueberry's house, there are notes stating that kids who enter the rift kids who enter the rift and come back out lose their ability to speak, which is why Link doesn't speak during the course of the game. But that doesn't hold up to scrutiny.
That didn't happen for anyone else. Is it just children?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it like you spend too much time in there or something?
I mean, there were a lot of kids I feel like that I saved from the rifts who were eager to talk to me afterward, but maybe I'm just misremembering. I don't know.
Maybe it was always their parents, because I know the Goron kid, that was his dad. I'm trying to think of what other kids we saw in rifts.
When you get your horse, I know there's a kid chasing the horse to the rift, but I don't think the kid goes in there actually.
No, yeah.
About it. Yeah, so maybe it does. But I think Bob Buell might be right though, in that it's like canonically he's a mute, because even I think in the MinnMax show I was talking about how in Breath of the Wild he's not mute, but they do have story context for why he doesn't talk very much. They at least explain that he's just very quiet and shy and stuff like that. And there is always that thing where he is talking, but you just don't hear it.
He just goes.
They do that all the time. Yeah.
And they go, "Oh wow, thanks, Link. I didn't know that." He just moves his arm a little bit.
Yeah. Some other sort of larger sort of story thoughts. Jared P. Since the 3 goddesses created Hyrule and Null is the enemy of the goddesses, does that make Null the Hyrule equivalent of the devil? I don't know. It's a much more vague, like deeper evil to me, where even like Ganondorf's always kind of like, a product of the sort of recurring evil that returns every now and then. But yeah, it does feel.
I mean,
does feel
Null just wants there to be nothing, though, right?
Yeah.
It's not really that it's nothing, or it's not that it's evil. It just doesn't want anything to exist.
It's like the Lich in Adventure Time, who's also like the scariest freaking antagonist ever. Like he just wants nothing forever, and that's his whole goal.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Yeah, I'm looking up. Oh, I remember the Lich. Yeah, this guy's no fun.
Oh my god, he's terrifying. And then he gets stuck in a room where he can't do anything, so he just exists there for a few seasons, not moving. But you're just kind of like, every so often they'll show him in the corner, and you're like, what's the Lich doing? Nothing, okay. Because he just can't complete his goal of eradicating every piece of matter in the universe. Oh my god.
Creepy.
That's such a weird goal. Maybe I can't decide if I respect that as a goal more or less than just kind of the standard, like, I want to take over the world thing. Like,
yeah.
What is it? What do you mean you want nothing? Like, you're something. So you want something because you aren't nothing. Like,
but imagine if you didn't have to think about anything at all ever for eternity.
I'd be so bored.
Why doesn't he just deal with himself then and leave everyone else alone?
Yeah, go to therapy, Null. Come on.
Yeah.
Null just wants a bed that it can lay in for eternity.
Just trying to.
But that's something.
Yep.
A bed is a something.
Yeah.
That's true.
It wants naps and dark nights.
Tokyo Game Life says, I liked how Prime Energy, reference to Kelsey's drink, it just ended up being the Triforce, meaning I didn't have to commit some new magical artifact to memory. I also thought it was clever that Zelda could actually communicate with the Golden Goddesses, something that fits her role as a priestess and is notably different from something Link could do. All the lore additions in this game seem to make sense instead of just contradicting everything like in other Zelda titles.
I didn't think about that. How she's actually like talking to them.
Same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
to
cool.
me, it still feels, I don't know if, I'm sure the internet has dug into this a lot, but it still feels like an alternate sort of timeline of Link to the Past to me, is kind of, I feel like, what we're looking at. Because it's like, it doesn't feel like a sequel to Link to the Past, and like, that game kind of exists in a way already, sort of, but like, there is enough references to Link to the, like, direct things connected to Link to the Past that it feels like it takes place in a different sort of world to me. I don't know, but I'm not sure what people think about that. Kelsey Sims, on the other hand, really hated that they called the Triforce the Prime Energy. It was like nails on a chalkboard every time I read it. It's arguably the symbol of the series, and they bring it back after 11 years with such a lame rebrand. I assume that because your partner's name is Tri and you use the Tri Rod, that something would happen by the end and it would then be called the Triforce. The setup was already there.
Yeah, I mean,
Nope, it's the
I was
stupid
expecting
energy
that
drink.
too.
I really it's certainly not enough to make me, dislike the game in any way, obviously, but like that was also nails on a chalkboard for me, but only because I'm like, how does the localization team not know that there's a very popular energy drink called Prime Energy? Like this is a Gen Alpha, like everybody loves this company, and I'm just like, what?
I guess they want to just claim. I mean, it's a good name for something that predates the Triforce. You know what I mean? Is like,
but it's not if it like
fits.
already obviously belongs to another very successful company.
Yeah, I guess
like
that's true.
maybe I don't know. Maybe no one else thought of that, but it was
I thought of
bothering
that
me the entire
immediately,
time.
Kelsey.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not in that loop, I think. So honestly, when I'm going to be honest here, you can go back in the video and look at my reaction. When you were like, hey, I brought Prime Energy, I didn't even really connect those dots. And I was like, what is that? So I'm just old, I guess, is what it comes down to.
You need some Prime
You
Energy.
have a child. I bet your your daughter knows what Prime
she
Energy
recently
is.
became a teenager, so I feel
I bet
incredibly old all the time.
I bet
now.
she knows what Prime Energy is.
Not in my house, you don't. Maybe she doesn't know. Let's see. Oh, I just talked about this, but 1-1 wrote, while a lot of the map is new, I appreciate the echoes to the Link to the Past map. The church/cemetery in the north, the town in the west, the hills with the Octoroks to the east of the castle right past the river. Yeah, that's super fun. Just to have that little bit of referential stuff, I think it's really great.
Do you think they're starting to do Gerudo stuff is always left, like mountain is always up? It kind of feels like Lake Hylia is always down to the east a little. Like even though the map's different in every game, it kind of feels like they're slowly like, this is how it is, and there might be different roads that get you there, but ultimately it's in the same general direction every time.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's all sort of like the idea is it's just this recurring cycle taking place in the same area.
Yeah.
Right? Like in theory, it's all takes place in the same place. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if they think about it that much. It's always that thing of like, I don't think they think about it more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Of like the story part of it. I think it's more like, yeah, people kind of know if they go left, they're going to hit the desert. So let's just like maintain that,
I think that's what it is at this point. It's just like, oh, you should head to Gerudo Desert. My brain would just start going west after playing enough Zeldas. And they've probably just recognized that at this point, and they could never switch it up from that formula. Like if the desert was ever north, I know that just kind of is contradictory too in terms of our globe, because north is where it gets cold. But I don't know. It just feels like if they ever put the desert in the east, I'd feel like wrong. It would feel like alternate timeline Haley who played different Zeldas than me or something.
Yeah, like Twilight Princess on GameCube or something,
Exactly. What the hell?
Everything's mirrored. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We could kind of start heading towards the end here. I want to talk about favorite echoes because we had a number of quick hit comments about favorite echoes. Ben Hansen, former host of this series, says, I think that Tornado is a beautiful name. If you're planning on having kids, you should take note. So,
Tornado.
Thanks,
Perfect.
Ben.
It's gonna break some
Let's
hearts.
see. Let's see. Christopher Reardon. Last session, I was all about the Chompfin Shark Echo, but this time it's been Lizalfo's level 3 for me. Took so long to get that 5th triangle so I could summon him, but it was worth the wait. My man fights through fire and water for Zelda. He even soloed a Dark Nut 3. Plus, he looks frickin' sweet with his gold armor and trident. That's the guy you find underwater. I think it's like a Lizalfos that you find underwater, right?
I
Did you
think
guys
so.
find this one? Yeah.
Mhm.
Thickeroni with cheese. Joran says the boomerang Borblins quickly became my favorite echo. Their boomerangs hit going out and coming back, and at max try level, you can summon 6 of them for maximum chaos. I called them the boomerang
I
boys.
did use those guys a lot.
Yeah,
just because they don't really cost anything, so they don't do a ton of damage, but they are
but they're getting hits, you know.
Yeah, they're flinging projectiles everywhere. It's more stuff for the enemies to target too. They're useful.
Yeah. Thickeroni with cheese called them the boomerang boys with a Z, and we tore it up together. Null ain't no match for the boys.
I want to say an echo I was disappointed by. There is a really cute like parrot, like a pink parrot, not the one that we were talking about last week. That's like kind of weird looking, the one that just looks like a crow but it's pink. And you get it in kind of like the Deku area. He doesn't attack, he just screams. And I really wanted to have an army of him, and he just screams, and I'm like, you guys are, this is just the birds I have at home. This isn't useful to me. So I think the screaming like causes the screaming clearly does something, but it was not what I was looking for, and I very quickly went back to just crows if I needed an army.
I guess,
The
Kelsey.
beacon.
And I think a Korok seed tells you that all it does is it calls all the enemies nearby to one location. So it's not very good for you because they're not.
Yeah.
It doesn't, do anything for you personally. So when you call it out and it screams, it doesn't actually help.
The definition says calls allies to attack on its behalf, which is just what Zelda does. That's Zelda's role. You don't need a bird that does that too.
He's so cute though. I wanted him to
He's
be
pretty cute.
See, Manta Guy says Path Blades were my go-to solution for getting around land quickly. They just keep going in any cardinal direction and don't stop until they hit an obstacle or an enemy it can't one-shot, which there's less of that than you think. Also, using zeros to cheese the Lionel and Bomb Link boss fights were the most satisfying moments I had in this game. My mushroom babies just kept dropping bombs on their heads, and there was nothing they could do about it. And then there's a comment here, which I hope you guys have an answer to this. Martin Glowacki says, would be fun to hear the panel's top 10 or 5 most used echoes, what they were by the end of the game. I don't know if you guys have your Switches handy, but I can look at mine. I was actually surprised.
I'll go grab mine real quick while you guys are pulling yours up.
Yeah. Which you can, you pull up your list and you can change it to most used. And I was actually surprised. I talked about this on the MinnMax show, but my number 1 is Sand Crab. Because I would just pepper enemies. So it wasn't that like by the end of the game I wasn't using them as much, but there was that period in the first 10 hours or so where I was just like really hitting enemies with it. So it's Sand Crab is number 1 for me, and then Plat Boom, the yellow platform that just lifts up, was my number 2.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to hear Jeff, do you have like what were your first couple most used?
Number 1, water block.
Oh, okay.
Number 2, cloud. Number 3 is apparently bomb fish. I used a lot of bomb fishes.
Yeah.
Number 4, Ignizol for fire stuff.
Oh,
then
I used
Dark
the
Nut.
slug. I used the fire slug for some reason. I don't know why. I just liked him. I just used him a lot.
Yeah, Dark Nut was number 5. Flying Tile, number 6. Lizalfos, number 7. And then bats. 8.
Bats.
And a bunch of bats.
You have a list ready to go, Haley? Or?
Yeah, my number 1 was also water block. I was using those to get around everywhere. Number 2 is Ignizol, the fire little guy. Pea hat is number 3.
No.
I was using pea hats especially early game. I had a pea hat that just followed me around. Like that's all I did. I just had pea hat out all the time.
Had him out all those.
They're great because they go right up and then come down. Like a lot of them they kind of go like the bats will go, oh, I think I want to fight you. Let me get, and then by the time they get into their situation, they're already killed. The pea hat was like bloop, and then took its spikes out and then would just attack. Number 4 is the Biamos, the like eyeball thing that's spun and then
The
shot.
tiny one, right? Oh no,
Yeah,
no, okay,
the
okay.
blue one. And
Right.
I did use this one a lot, even though it wasn't that good. I just knew it would get a dedicated hit off. I think I was getting frustrated that things weren't dying, and I would always see the BMOS at least get one hit out before it died and turned to rock or whatever. So I would just spam that over and over. Old bed, use that a lot for platforming. Bombfish, classic. Table, and then Darknet level 3 was the one I fought the most with. Those are my top ones.
Bed. None of you guys have beds? Old bed is my number 3.
That's my
Yeah,
fifth.
old bed is my number 3.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Haley.
I have water block, crow, old bed, Ignazol, and then bombfish.
Yeah. Sounds like Ignazol and Bombfish are going to be in most people's top use.
I never, even when I got the bombs, I never used.
Me neither.
No.
I never like did the link thing and then used my own bombs. I was like, why do that when I have
Why would you?
infinite bombs that don't cost anything in the bombfish?
Exactly. I'm not going to use my meter for the stupid bombs.
I pulled up my list and like everything is like, yeah, I remember using that a lot. And then like then I get down to the Lionel, and then right after the Lionel is the Tangler, which you guys joked. It's like the fish. It's like the standard fish, and you guys joked about how useless. Yeah, and I'm like, how did when did I use that thing?
In the Zora area a bunch, maybe?
I think it was like I was fighting that Zora. Because I think I refought that Zora dungeon from the guy in the Kakariko village that you can sort of do the sort of combat trials with. And I think I just used that fish a lot, maybe, in that thing to the point where it bumped it way up. But I was like, what? How is that even in my top 20? But I was surprised. So,
was the shark at least up there too? The chomp fin? Because he was goated in the water.
I used him a lot, but I think that the shark comes later in my list.
Yeah,
I
guess it's probably because the big ones, like you only spawn it once versus spamming, a little dumb fish 6 times.
All right. Yeah.
You had more success with the chomp fin, but you hired more dumb fish.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then I never used the rock roast. That's my last unused. I just
never
don't think I
used it
ever
either.
summoned it. It was the last.
I never
thing
used
I got.
tempered Tweelus.
Yeah, there's a couple I never used, mostly just because I got them so late. It was just like, I don't know, I don't really need that, especially just some of the ones I got in the mountain area. Like I never used the freeze slug. I guess I never used the ice keys, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, even in the fight, the boss fight with the helmet that switched temperatures?
No, I was using the ice wizard for that.
Oh, ice wizard. That is better. True.
Yeah.
A couple more comments here. Collectacular. I'm of two minds with the combat in this game. I think it's really fun / refreshing to puzzle out combat encounters, but I never really wanted to solve combat puzzles more than once. Echoes like the Lionel feel like a reward for late game players, but it's so strong that it trivializes combat almost entirely. And despite its usage limits, swordsman mode is always the most efficient way to dispatch enemies and bosses, which I feel diminishes Zelda's big playable debut a bit. And yeah, I tend to agree with it. I'm a little, or with Collectacular. We talked about it on the MinnMax show a little bit when I came on to talk about the game, but like, I don't want a Zelda game without combat, I think, but I don't think I would have hated this game if like there wasn't really a lot of combat and it was just like mostly just Zelda has this unique puzzle idea and she just solves puzzles exclusively. Because like there were so many occasions where I would walk in a room full of enemies and I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll just throw some stuff out here and stand in the corner. And it's like, it wasn't super satisfying. But I do want a Zelda starring game for her to have her own thing. I don't want her to just be, Link. I want her to have something unique. And I think they found it, but like it wasn't like just like an automatic complete win for me by the end of the game. It was just like, this was cool. This was really good, but it still feels like I was playing as Link for about like 40% of the game, I
feel like the obvious answer is she should just be the magic user of the two or something, like have magic combat abilities, because she's always seemed way more magic than Link also.
There probably should have been just like something she could do that was combat related, even if it was still like, you had to summon fire so you could like light your rod on fire to then throw fire at people or something, like you can add some kind of puzzly element to it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it did feel like it was missing something like that. But I mean, uh, just because I think there was really not a way to use the echoes where you didn't feel like you were just kind of standing in the corner and watching them fight. Like you could target specific things, but that's, and some of the bosses did that okay, like the spider boss where you had to hit all of the little electric crystals
Mm.
on him.
Mhm.
But that was really the only time where I felt like I was actually kind of like directing my echoes rather than just throwing them out there and then
Oh, that
Yeah.
mini boss, the slime one where you had to freeze it first. That was a cool one.
Mhm.
I thought that was pretty smart. Where you have to like, okay, I need my ice
Oh, yeah.
echoes out, and then I'll choose my dark nut kind of energy.
Yeah.
More stuff like that would have been cool.
Yeah, specific solutions I would have been okay with, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, I super happy with Echoes of Wisdom. Really happy with it. Just I love how adorable it is. I love the music. I think the music's like fantastic. I know that's kind of a common refrain for Zelda games, but I would put this like in the upper sort of tier of Zelda music for me. I really liked
Mhm.
how it just sort of hints at old music and like sort of reimagines it. Which again, these are things I can say for all Zelda games, but it was particularly well done here. Um, and as like the Zelda nerd, I do kind of like the Prime Energy stuff and Null and the goddesses and that kind of thing. Like I enjoy that stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Final thoughts from everybody. Kelsey, like how do you feel about Echoes of Wisdom overall after having seen credits?
I liked it. I don't think I don't think this did anything like to make it an incredible game for me, but I thought it carried out what it was trying to do very competently. That sounds like kind of clinical, but like I really do. I am positive on this game. I thought it was good. I had a nice time with it. It's kind of like what I wanted out of a game like this. And again, I'm a much bigger fan of newer styles of Zelda than I am of older, which I think we're kind of in mixed company here about.
Hmm.
But I really liked that there were so many solutions to things. That's something that draws me to play a Zelda game. Whereas if you tell me that like, nope, this is like the old ones, there is one solution. If you can't figure it out, you are screwed. So I'm positive on it. I don't think it's going to be, like in my top 3 or anything for the year, but like it's certainly like it was a very enjoyable experience. I'm glad I did it. I think it's a worthwhile Zelda game, and I thought the length was pretty good too.
Yeah.
Like pretty much exactly what I wanted.
Another quick comment here from Dawid Bayorski. I think any studio developing an open world game could learn from Echoes of Wisdom, specifically that freedom is not just about being able to do what you want, but also how you want to do it, which I think is a relevant comment to what you're talking about, Kelsey. Haley, what about you? Final thoughts on Echoes of Wisdom?
I really liked it. I thought the game design of the ecosystem was really cool. I know we were down on it in a couple different ways, like combat wise and stuff, but overall, it was a very cool way to go about an open world game with the way that it implemented puzzles and stuff. Like we were talking about the Ice Temple. There was some really. You think a lot of times like, oh wow, that's very neat. Like you think that a lot while playing this game, and that always feels really good. Where it's just like, oh wow, these devs are smart. Like I like thinking that while I play through a game. The art style is adorable. I agree. The music's some of the best. There were some boss fights where I was like, oh, this is like one of the best boss fight songs I've ever heard in a Zelda game, which is crazy that it's just this cutesy little little one that has the fire and ice boss fight song's really good. I went back and listened to it after. I was like, this one slaps. But yeah, no, I thought it was really well implemented, and overall, I really liked it too. It's one of those games where I wanted to do everything, which is always really telling. Like it wasn't just that I went through all the beats and went to the dungeons and then moved on with my life. Like I was like, I want to take a little bit and go do the whole map. Oh, a pony. I'll ride that for a little bit and I'll go do all these side missions. I think it's telling when I want to just slow down and do everything. And that's definitely one of these types of games.
Yeah, you just want to exist in that.
Yeah,
version of
just want to
Hyrule.
be there.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff, what about you? Final thoughts?
I too really liked it. I feel like I feel like in the last episode I was hotter on it and was kind of pleasantly surprised how much I did like the ecosystem. And I think last time I said like I hope that it keeps evolving it and like keeps surprising me. And I feel like it kind of didn't. Like ultimately, I feel like maybe halfway through or whatever, I started getting stuff that was like, okay, this is a level 3 version of this enemy, and this is like I was finding less like really interesting kind of echoes to that were like expanding the way I was thinking about the core system, and so it kind of it's one of those games where it felt like it kept on going, not in a way like it was bloated or anything, but it was just like I continued to enjoy it, and my enjoyment kind of plateaued at a point, but didn't go down or anything. And so I do appreciate that it was a manageable experience, one that I actually got through, which is rare nowadays. I did like that the later dungeons were a little more complicated and did kind of give me a little bit of that older Zelda feeling. And yeah, like it was a pleasant experience. It didn't blow my mind, and it didn't like rewrite what Zelda is to me. But I had fun through and through. So
It was comfy.
success.
It was kind of, yeah.
Yeah, pleasant as hell. That's my back of the box quote.
What did you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I really I like it. It's like what did you said, Kelsey? It's like I don't think it's like gonna crack my like top 3 of the year or anything like that. I think I'm kind of there where it's like if I'm ranking it compared to the rest of the year, it's like it's on this bottom half of my top 10. I'm just really liking it. And then I was thinking earlier about 2D Zeldas and where it fits there, and I would still put things like Link Between Worlds and Minish Cap above it. But I really liked it a lot. I want more from Zelda starring Zeldas in the future. But this was like a great, like she had her own sort of thing that sets her apart in this game that I thought was executed pretty well. And it makes me I'm hopeful that Grezzo is like gets to do it again. Like I hope that they are kind of they've remade a number of Zeldas, and they did good work there, and to get a chance to do their own, I think paid off, and I hope that Grezzo's next game is another Zelda game of some kind, some original Zelda game. I'd be totally happy with that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we mentioned it in the last episode, but like when Tears of the Kingdom came out, we were all like, I don't know what the hell they're gonna do with this franchise anymore. Like, there's no solution. There's no coming back after this. And like, they found a really nice niche kind of way to bring some of those elements in, but do a new Zelda game that everybody still enjoyed. And so
Yeah.
like, that's no small feat in itself.
They did it. They solved
I
the
think
Zelda problem.
it also shouldn't be lost that this one was directed by a woman, Tomomi Sano, and I believe was this her first like actual director? She's been an assistant director a handful of times, but I think this is her first like.
Yeah, she worked on the other Zeldas that Grezzo worked on, right? But this was her time.
Yeah,
I think
and
she co-directed, didn't she, in the credits? I think there were 2 directors.
yeah, I think you're right. I think
Which is pretty typical for Zelda, but yeah.
Yeah, it's Satoshi Terada and Tomomi Sano. And I think I mean I'm happy to see this from Nintendo. It's there have not been a lot of women directing games over there, even though that company's been around for a very long time. It's kind of sparse. So it's nice to see that it's also nice to see that it's not just like Animal Crossing, like this is an entire Zelda game, and I think they did a really good job with it.
Yeah, this a high compliment I will pay it is that it doesn't feel like a spin-off to me. Like this is totally Zelda canon, 100%, no question in my mind. Like this isn't like where you're kind of like, yeah, well that one kind of doesn't count. It's like no, this one 100% counts. Triforce Heroes doesn't really count. This counts for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said something earlier about maybe in the future there being a more serious Zelda game or whatever, but I don't mean that in a way where this feels like a spin-off. It just feels like there's kind of levels of quote unquote real Zelda games. There's like some really big ones and then some slightly smaller ones. I'd argue like both of the DS ones are like kind of smaller ones, even
Yeah.
though they're still totally mainline
Spear
Zelda
tracks and
games.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think this is it's not in tone, it's not a very serious one. And it's maybe a little bit of a smaller game than some of the other Zeldas, just in length, but I don't know. Felt very legit to me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks, the crew, for sticking in and out to the end of the game. Great game. Echoes of Wisdom. What else can we say? We said a lot. There's like 2 hours, 3-4 hours of Echoes of Wisdom talk. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. Really appreciate it. And remember, you can support MinnMax on Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. And if you jump on at the $5 tier, you get an audio version of all of our content. So this is something you could have listened to on a podcast feed. And future Deepest Dives, you'll also be able to get those on a podcast feed. And we are giving away copies of Arco, Steam copies of Arco, which is a great, what is the note that we took down here? A tactics RPG-ish game. So hey, you want to find out what that means? Support MinnMax on Patreon. We'll send you a code.
I think
at the
Leo and
$10
Jacob
tier.
are really hot on that one at the
Yeah.
moment.
Take advantage of it. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, Kelsey, Jeffem, Haley.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank
good
you,
time.
Kyle.
Yeah. Thanks for jumping in and hosting this thing.
Yeah, no,
Been a
happy
good
to do
time.
it. I turns out I was playing it anyway. I don't know if that surprises you guys, but yeah, cool. Well, thanks everybody. Be good, have fun. Let's go.
Did you know that you can double the amount of MinnMax podcasts you listen to every single week right in your favorite podcast app? All you have to do is go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, jump in at that $5 tier, and then you're good to go. You have the podcast version of The Deepest Dive, Max Spoilers, MinnMax Interviews, weekly access to Bonus Pod, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast. It's very good. And early and ad-free versions of the MinnMax Show podcast every single week. There's a ton of content in there, and it's a way to directly support what we do here at MinnMax.